Final video on painting and assembling my version of the flux capacitor. First of all, I want to thank you all. There have been some great positive reactions to my design, and today we will continue with painting and assembly. So let's get started. So as you know by now, the parts we will print by Shapeways. The parts are printed in an UV ultraviolet cured acrylic material that looks exactly like this. It's transparent when you get it, and this is perfect because we are going to need some clear parts where the light will have to shine through. So we'll get back to those later. There's one thing I want to tell you about when you are getting the parts from Shapeways. This acrylic polymer may contain some wax, may have some wax on it because that's the support material used in the printing, and that one should be washed off. So do not use any chemicals. This material can handle up to 80 degrees of temperature, but above that it's going to deform. So don't use boiling water or hot water, just use like cold water. Put like soap in it, just wash them with soap, with a soap. Anything will work, like dishes soap will work. That's going to be, again, take a bowl, put the parts in the bowl with the soap and leave them there like for 1/2 an hour, and the wax will get off, and then you'll have a much easier time painting it, because if the wax is not entirely cleaned from the surface, then your paint won't take, because that wax is like an oily it's like an oily liquid, so it will get between the paint and the surface of the material. So that's why you'll just have to clean them. This is a simple procedure to do that, and take your time, put them in there, and after that let them dry completely until it's and take a look at the surface. If the surface is still oily, just put them again in the bowl and leave them there until they're really clean. You just can wash them a little bit, pay extra attention to the really tiny parts because you don't want to break those. What I want to tell you by now is that I've divided the parts into 2 different sets, because this is set 1 with those 2 different covers. I will tell you more about them later. And this is set number 2, containing those really small parts that are high detail and must be printed in the highest quality possible. So that's why this one is printed in the highest quality possible. This one doesn't have so much detail, so it can be printed in let's say lesser material, but it's still very nice, smooth like this. It's great. So let's talk about the sets. The set 1 of 2 is this. Well, you see that there are 2 versions to talk about them. There's a version without this. I'll be showing now a picture of those without the rubber in place. This is real rubber. I've put the link to the place where you can buy the rubber in the description of the part, so you can just click on it and purchase your rubber. This version is with 3D printed rubber, and it has the gasket painted. So this is the second one. On pictures you see the difference a little. In real life you will see that the one with the real rubber it looks really great. It's phenomenal. When you were getting the parts, this trade is this set is like straightforward. It has the cover, the box itself with the lip. It is designed to be just like it was in the A version of the car. Both on top and on the bottom side. I'll just say that this is my prototype. I've made one change to the top prototype. I've added the pins that were here on the bulkhead, because I didn't want to make a hole in the lip, so I am putting the pins on the lip, so you can insert those pipes on the lips of the enclosure itself. So you'll have to remove those two with a knife and just put a box in place like this, and then connect the cables here. So that's about the box. About these tiny parts that you see here now, those are screwed together in order to save costs and material. The lesser the parts, the better the price they give you. So what I've done is, and also because they're really tiny parts, you don't want to touch each other and break, so they're more rigid when they're one piece instead of many pieces like you see here. So I've indicated the sprues that keeps them together with green in the pictures that you see right now. There's one sprue for those clasps, and it's the whole bar that's in between them that should be removed. So you're going to use a knife like this, a Xuro knife or a sprue removing knife, to just cut it, and cut it just as flush as possible. Just put it against the piece and just cut it, and the sprue will be removed. So you will get a very nice finish on the back. I've also put a sprue on the back of the parts so that you won't see any, if you don't cut it clean, then you won't see anything after painting. So you just remove it and they will be good to paint. Pay good attention at this part, because they're also screwed together. As you see right now in the image, the cylinder from the sprue, it continues in the cylinder that goes to these syringes or flux singularity capacitors, as they are called, and it's the point where the sprue gets thicker. That's the point where you have to cut it. So pay much attention to that, because you will need this part of the cylinder for assembly into the Tor Relays. So you must keep that part as is. Now, by painting the parts, I started with priming the box and the covers. As I told you in my previous video, I did it with Tamiya Surface Primer L. I've already told you, you'll have to put a few layers on it until when you look at it through the glass, then if it doesn't, if it's not transparent anymore, then it's okay. You're good to go. That's the first thing to do. Prime them and then wait until the paint is dry. It will take about half an hour per layer, and then to fully harden it will take about 3 hours after you put on the last layer. You can prime the box itself, the cover, and also the backboard, the Tor Relays and the clasps. But do not prime these parts because they need to stay clear. So do not do anything on these parts yet. I'll also tell about painting those at the end of my video. So we'll continue with this video. With these parts in the video, and then I'll talk about this at the end. So after you've primed the parts, then you can just apply paint by using a brush or by airbrush. If you use an airbrush, I use an Iwata APC Plus airbrush. That's really that makes a really nice finish. The thing is that you don't see brush streaks, so an airbrush will always have a better finish than a brush, but I think some people can get a really nice results with a brush. Put thin layers on it, and then wait until it's dry and then put another layer, and that's much better than putting a very thick layer, because you will see like those brush strokes that you don't want to see. So that's about painting this. Well, I'll say it again. I've painted the box with Tamiya XF19 Sky Gray. After that, I painted the backboard with black gray, which is very dark gray. It's near black, but not black, because that will absorb all the light, so you don't want to have that. And after painting those, I've moved on to painting the Tor Relays, and I used the clasps, the painting clasps. I will take one now. So you can just take one relay, and you have those two pins underneath the part that you use for assembly, and you can attach your pin to it. And when you have it, then you can, when you have it in place, you can just paint it with an airbrush. Do it from a distance of about let's say 10 to 15 centimeters, not to spray too much paint on it, but to have an even layer when you're painting it, so it has a very nice finish when done. You can also do everything with a brush. What I'm using are those Revel Pantai Luxus brushes. They're really nice. I prefer, personally, I prefer this number 2, but for finer details you can use also a 1 or an even smaller brush. Depends on what you do, but I think a 2 brush number 2 will do just fine. So this is with the Tor Relays. When you're ready painting them, just let the paint dry for another half an hour, and then you can varnish them. And you can use the Humbrol Varnish I've showed you in my previous video to seal the color, to seal and protect the paint. So this is these are the Tor Relays painted. After I painted the Tor Relays, I went on to painting the clasps, and also the part on the window of the clasps that should have the same color. As I told you in my previous video, these small clamps are painted with steel color from Vallejo. I've also airbrushed them. The same principle applies. You take a clamp, there are 2 pins on the back of them that are needed for assembly. You can attach your clamp to one of those pins, then you have it in place. Then you can turn it around and airbrush it, or just do it by using a brush. So you paint it until you have a nice surface, and then it's all ready. So the clamps are now painted. The clasps are painted, I want to say. Well, when all these are painted, then the most difficult part of painting this version of the flux capacitor is this part. These 3 parts consisting of the energy crystals and flux connectors, and those syringes, the high voltage relays. How to paint this? Well, I started by painting the yellow wires, to say it like that, because when you apply the red on top of it, well, if you make some mistakes and you put yellow against this part, then you can cover it again with a red color, which is actually orange red. Orange red with what I used. You see it here from Vallejo, orange red. And the yellow is, as I said in my previous video, it's flat yellow. Okay, and this is what I use for those things. I started with a yellow. I painted the yellow. I painted it directly I didn't do any priming on these parts. I just painted them directly, and they were yeah, the paint looks really nice, so it's okay as it is. And then I continued by painting these knees and those small connectors, so I'll call it like that, with red. And the last thing I did is paint the sides of the crystals with the same color I did the backboard, being this one. It's only the side, so I hope you can see this, that's the part below stays clear and the part on top stays also clear. When you paint these, try to take your brush and then paint from the middle to the outside, like this. And try not to touch those syringes. Whatever you do, try not to touch them, because they are they must stay clear. So try to do it really careful so that you don't touch them, and it's doable. So and it will have a really nice effect when ready. So that's what you have to do. Only the sides, this side and this side, and the tops should remain clear. This side has to remain clear, and this also. So this is painting those parts. So now for the assembly, what we're looking here is the following. When you are ready with painting all those different parts, either by using an airbrush or just a normal brush, doesn't matter. The thing to do is the following. You see here the backboard. You'll have to look to see in which position these parts can be placed. When you look at the backboard, you see that there are 6 holes here. For the Tor Relays, they are all different, because there's only one way to assemble this. So you can get it wrong, and I think it's best to take a look at the picture and see what's the positions of these clasps here. And you can do it like this. You just insert those parts with those 2 pins on the bottom. You insert them into those 2 holes. So this is delicate work, like this, and it's in place. And what you now have to do is, I'm using super glue to do it. I'm using Bison. It's a gel form of this, because it's not so fluid, and that's really nice, because it stays on the spot and doesn't get messy. But to make sure, I would advise you to just once you put one relay in place, to just lift up your backboard like this, hold it with one finger to the board like this, and apply the glue onto the back here and here, and then keep it in place like for 1 minute, and they will be stuck. They won't move anymore, so those will be stuck. And repeat the procedure for those other 2s. It's actually the same. You locate the pins you see, and you put it here in place. I'm going to do it right now. You'll have to find the exact spot on the backboard where those pins are in. Once they're in, they will stay there. Same, glue this one in place. And this 3rd one, it's the one that's here on top. Yes, so all 3 are now in place. And following would be to introduce this part onto the Tor Relays, and you are going to do it like this. Look, that I've designed it like this to also have 2 fixing points. One is inside the Tor Relay, and the other one is just on the side. It's below this part here. So what you are actually doing is taking this part, and you just gently introduce it insert it in here like this, and they will be in place. You just push it until it's down enough. You can use that part. Now it's really in there, and there it is now completely in place and as you want it to be. So I would suggest not to glue this part, this pin, but just glue it here with the same super glue in a gel form. I have this really great stuff, and I am doing by using a toothpick like this one, or this is a barbecue stick like this one. I just take a little bit of the paint on the point of my stick. You see how it looks? It's jelly like this, and then I apply this jelly to the back side of the board like this, and then it will stay in place, because this one it's really like stuck in there. It can move up but not that easily. So if you just apply the paint there, it will be enough and it will work. So you just do the same with the other two. I will do it right now just to show you how it works. Be careful not to touch those the tips of those syringes, I call them, because they are really fragile and any pressure on them could break them. So be careful with that one. Okay, and now the last one, the same procedure, just put it here in place, take care that it's in both points, and now they're all three in place and they're exactly how you want to have them. And when you have glued them all in place, then you just put the backboard into the box and you put a cover in place. And there are also the clasps now. You can just use the same technique for the clasps to glue it into place. There are two holes in the box and two small pins on the back side of those clasps. So you just put them in place and glue them. I would suggest for this one not to put a glue in the holes, but to put a little bit of glue in between those pins here, so that you won't get any glue inside the box when you are introducing it. When you're inserting it, then you press these points. You press the points in the box, so you are pressing also the glue into the box, so that you don't want to do that. So just put a little bit of glue in between them, and I'm certain this is really strong stuff. It will keep them there and they won't fall off. So I will be inserting them now. It's like this. This is the first one, and the second one the same. And it's really nice that you can hear them click actually when you are putting them in place. They will click onto the cover. And this is it. This is the flux capacitor ready. Well, now about the covers. I will tell you more about the covers and how to do it. This one is the one with the real rubber. What I did is, like, if you take a good look at the pictures of the real car, you will see that the seam, or the place where the rubber profile comes together, is at the bottom, at the center bottom of this piece. I have done the same with this. So what you want to do is, when you put a rubber in the version that doesn't has a 3D printed rubber, when you want to put the real rubber in it, you start by inserting it from here below, and you when you've cut it to the right length, Then you start putting it from here, from the middle, and this rubber profile has a wider side, that is this one, and a shorter side, that is that one. And I've put a wider one on the outside because I found it to be easier. So you put it in place from here below until you've got it in place in the cover. So the cover will be will have the rubber at one point. The next step would be to just trace the pattern. What you're going to do is you want to make the glass. So I'm using this clear polyester 0.75 millimeters. You just put the cover without the rubber onto it. You trace it with a pencil in the right shape, and then you cut it with a scissors, and then you make sure that is that you take like 1 millimeter off, because this one has to be a little the glass must be a little smaller to really get inside. And when you have done that, you have the piece of the clear plastic. The only thing you have to do is untie the bottom side of the rubber, and then slide the glass into it, and then just put the rubber around the bottom part of the glass from both sides like this. Keep it in place, and then just push it down, and it will stay in place, and it will look like this. And this, I must say, it looks phenomenal with that real rubber profile. It's very nice. If you don't have the rubber, or if you cannot purchase it, then you can also do it like this. This is the one with the printed rubber. I've used Tamiya XF 85 black rubber to paint it, and then it's also easy. Take the backboard, being this one, and put the backboard on the piece of the transparent plastic sheet. Trace it with a pencil, and then you will have the right shape. When you have the right shape, take again 1 millimeter off on all sides to be sure that it will still fit in the box. This one fits perfectly, so that must be a little smaller, and you'll know for sure that it fits on the cover. The next thing to do is take it and make sure that the distance between the top side of it and the bottom side of the top part of the cover is the same as here below. Just keep it symmetrical in all parts, and I've used some Contacta clear glue from Rebel again to glue it in place, and I've done it. Do not put it on the edge, just put it on the corners and a little bit off from the edge. There it takes 5 to 10 minutes until it's fully dried. So when it's dried, it looks like this from the front, so you don't see anything. It's great. It's the same finish with the glass in place. It's also looking very good. That's all I have to say about these covers. This one is really it's really worth it, going the extra mile and doing this. It's really very nice. So this is the painting and assembly of the flux capacitor. And now you were going to ask me how to put it into place into the bulkhead. So first thing you have to do is to make sure, I have here the enclosure, that you cut those 2 pins off, because they will be on your box, the one you're getting printed from Shapeways. And the only thing you have to do, I'll just show you there. What you have to do is make sure that This pipe is in the center of the top of the box, and this pipe should be against the box. So you aim to put it like this. There's only one problem. Those two pipes, two outer pipes, they have a pin. I'm not that happy with the design of the stock flux, because they made two big ugly holes in them, and I don't want to do that with my box. So the thing that what I will be doing is I will just cut those pins off and just put a box against it. And there are several ways to put it in place. You can drill some holes in it and put like M2 bolts and nuts to put it in place, or you just make a smaller hole in it and just put some AP screws in it. That will work too. I'm going to cut the ends of those conduits and just put the box against them. So I've just cut one. I'm cutting the other one too. Well, the camera is not that there, but I'm cutting it off too here. So the parts are now ready, cut. So just put it there, as you see. Let me see. This is looking great, and on the other side is looking great. There's something I also want to tell you about this golden pipe that sits here. Well, this is like how you can put your flux into place when it's ready. So like by now it's ready using the stock pipes, and I think it will look really nice. So now I want to tell you something about this pipe. Joe mentioned it. Joe also mentioned it in his video that this pipe is actually wrong, and it's wrong not only color-wise, because it should be silver or actually galvanized steel color, but it's wrong because it has a, let's say, a longer side and a shorter side, and it's actually that the shorter side should be against the flux and not the longer side. So how are we going to solve this? Well, I was thinking for most people they will leave it as it is in the stock position. You just put a flux and you're done. You will have a really nice flux, so this won't bother you much. Paint it silver and you will also have a more accurate look at this. Now, if you want to fix this really, then you'll have to go the extra mile. I'm going to take the pipe off. I've took it off, and what you'll now see is that when you have the box in place and make sure that pipe on the top is really in the middle of the box, you can keep it there in place. You will see if you put it in the correct way the pipe should be. The problem is you will see a little of the just a little bit of the hole of that pipe. So the only thing to do this nice is to fill that hole and then repaint the whole bulkhead with a nice steel color or something that is metallic. This is the only way to do it, but this is not. You shouldn't do this if you think that it's too much work, or you're not able to do it. You just leave it in the stock position and it will look right. But if you want to go the extra mile and make it all look more screen accurate, then yeah, you should do this, and then you will have a really screen accurate flux capacitor, a box with beautiful parts inside it, and where also that pipe is screen accurate. So this is going to look perfect. So one thing I want to ask you is, after you painted all the parts, as you see, I did not put, I did not glue mine in permanently. I don't do it as yet because it's being work on a electronic board to put behind the backboard into the box. To get that really nice flux effect that you see in the movie. So I would suggest you not to glue it permanently yet, because I'm not sure, maybe at some point we'll need to get small lugs, as you see here, small supports to put onto the backboard. So if that's the case, and only if that's the case, because I think as it is, it's the most accurate flux capacitor that you got out there in 1/8 scale, and it's still exactly the same as the real version. So there's really like a high chance that you won't need a replacement backboard with supports there. If you do, I will make sure that there is one available for you to get separately. But you could also create your own supports if the backboard needs to be pushed a little bit more upwards in order to get the board in between. We're taking all these into consideration when we are developing the circuit board, that should be really thin, like 3 to 4 millimeters, and should fit behind this backboard in order for the light to shine through it. So for now, I'll just advise you not to glue them on permanently. Just make your box and made it all ready, and hopefully in a few weeks the board will be ready, and then you can assemble it and put it all together, and you have one nice finished flux capacitor. So that's it. So this is it actually. I really hope you have your answers now, and you can paint and assemble your own flux capacitor. At the end, I think it will look really nice. And thanks for watching this video. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate. I will answer every single one of them. So just ask it. Bye.